Well, a very good afternoon. Welcome to the FIM CEV Repsol here from Le Mans. This is last time out in Valencia. You can see that Aleix View was leading the race. This is race number 2 in the afternoon of the Sunday. And this was View leading the way. You just saw Danny Baye going down the road. View at this point was followed by Celestino Vietti-Ramos, but this was a racing incident that decided what happened. You can see Celestino Vietti-Ramos and Aleix View going down the road at exactly the same time, leaving Raul Fernandez to take the lead of the race. The yellow flag came out. Meanwhile, there was quite a squabble further back between the Asia Talent Team bikes. Ayagura getting the better of his teammate Yuki Kuni at this point in the race. Wouldn't be too long though before other riders came into the foray. This is Manuel Pagliani finding his way through, and likewise Jeremy Alcoba also getting in and amongst the mix. Raul Fernandez, though, rode an absolutely dominant race. Once others in front of him and behind him faltered, he managed to take his first victory of the season. A brilliant result and his first win in the FIM CEV Repsol since the end of 2016. The Spaniard was overjoyed, as were the Angel Nieto team. And what a way to start his season it was. Absolutely brilliant. So we are in Le Mans then. This is round 3 of the FIM CEV Repsol. It's the Moto3 Junior World Championship, and a very good afternoon to you from wherever you are watching us in the world. My name's Tom Brooks. Alongside me is Fran Wild, and as a special guest this weekend, down in pit lane we have Tom Beaujard. Tom is going to be joining us and giving us a special insight down on the grid, talking to various team members and riders, and also in the pit lane throughout the course of the race. You can see here this weekend the event very well attended, of course supporting the MotoGP event, and it's been hugely exciting so far this weekend. The Le Mans circuit, the Bugatti circuit that we're racing at, just over 4 kilometres in length, 4.2 in total, that's 2.6 miles. There are 14 turns out there on track, 6 to the right and 5 that are left. It's going to be a very exciting time for these runners and riders. So, Fran Wild, we've had a hugely exciting start to the 2018 FIM CEV Repsol, set to continue here this afternoon.
Yeah, definitely. I think it should be a good race here this afternoon. It's been good weather for them, unlike last year when obviously the first dry track time they had in the race. This time they've had 2 good dry sessions yesterday and then a bit this morning warm-up, and it should be a good race. Pretty interesting grid, I think. Absolutely.
Well, this man here on pole position for the 2nd time in succession, Aleix View on board the Maranelli Snipers Honda. Keep an eye out for him because he has been very quick over the course of this weekend. You just saw there sitting 6th in the championship so far, but he's got this man here to contend with, Fran. Championship leader Raul Fernandez. As we said, win last time out in Valencia, a 2nd place on the ball for him in Estoril at the start of the season. A really good consistent run for him.
Yeah, definitely. As you can see, like, there's a few guys who've had some good finishes so far this season, but Fernandez has not only been on the top of the box and near it, he's been consistent as well, even when he's not been able to take the win. Obviously that 4th place in the first race in Valencia, you know, that's what you need to be. You need to be consistent over the run of a season.
Well, it's proven to be so for Raul Fernandez. Real good turn of form for him on board the KTM. Somebody else you can see here who's done quite well. Podium last time out in race 2 in Valencia. Ayagura. Fran?
Yeah, I think Ayagura is one of the guys who needs to get that consistency, really. He's obviously got great pace, had a bit of bad luck, crash as well, and yeah, he needs to just show that form he had to get on the podium last time out, because he's got really good pace, and he's a race winner as well previously, so he just needs to take that step up and now keep it on the road a bit. And then Chantra as well, he's really had a solid start to the year, some good pace and good rides, solid points, and he was pretty quick last year as well at Le Mans as a rookie, so this year's sophomore season, and again 2nd row of the grid. Pretty impressive stuff, so hopefully they'll both be wanting to get in that fight at the front. Yeah, the Asia Talent Team riders, we saw them, of course, fighting in Valencia, just in that brief view of the highlights that we saw a couple of moments ago. Those riders have been doing very well so far this season. Somkiat Chantra having a very good run of form, so keep an eye out for the Thai rider, as we said, heads the 2nd row of the grid. Manuel Pagliani, of course, won the opening round in Estoril, sits 2nd in the championship on 48 points. Things didn't go his way in race 1 in Valencia. Bounced back, though, crucially, the Italian in race 2, Fran. He lines up in the middle of the 2nd row. Yeah, definitely. He'll be ruining that that first race at Valencia. That's really what's not cost him the lead, because obviously Fernandez has been the guy really putting it all together so far. But Pagliani, that first race in Valencia was costly, so he'll want to, you know, get back in that dogfight, even for big points or podium or the win.
Exactly right. This man here, Riccardo Rossi, and not a name we've seen up the top end of the timesheets too much. You can see a few top 10 finishes, but he's certainly not been fighting in the leading group so far this season. He's running a Husqvarna with the JHK Leglise team. His best qualifying of the season on the outside of the second row. Keep an eye out for the Italian. He's from Genova in Italy. 16 years of age he is, has come through the Italian Championship. So keep an eye out for him. He could be a bit of a dark horse in this race. That Husqvarna working very well around this circuit. The JHK Leglise team and also Riccardo Rossi finding a bit of a sweet spot. Vicente Perez, though, well, a rider who we know has pace. We know he can be consistent over the course of a season. Things haven't necessarily gone his way, though, so far in 2018, Fran.
Yeah, no, I think definitely looking for a bit more this weekend. I think in qualifying, you know, it's not a bad place to start and just get it together and I think now we're starting to get into the swing of the season, and now these guys, it's not too late to really kick on now and start getting some good results and gaining some good points. Yuki Kuni will know that. He's not yet been on the podium, but he is third in the standings. So, you know, 8th for him, that's a good place to start today. But I think as well this weekend, it really feels like a big event here. Obviously, they're in a separate paddock, the CEV guys, but it's a huge stage alongside the French GP, and I think maybe for a few of them that pressure could be helpful. It could be a little bit much, but right, we've got Tom Beaujard down in pit lane. What have you got for us, Tom?
I got a world champion for you, Nico Terol, who's taking care about Raúl Fernandez. Really ideal conditions. How is Raúl's mindset ahead of this race?
Yeah, Raúl at the moment have a very good confidence with the bike. At the moment we are in the first position in the championship. The race in the qualifying was a very good pace for Raúl, but this is very important. Finish the race, points for the home, and at the moment have a very good confidence for this race.
You've been brilliant on this racetrack. What's the tricky bit according to you?
I think many riders have the same pace. Today the important is a good start and push hard in the first laps, but after I think in battle for the race 5 or 6 riders.
Muchas gracias, Nico.
Gracias.
Thank you very much to Tom. Thank you
you
very much to Nico Terol down in pit lane as well. You can see Raúl Fernandez, the rider that he's been coaching so far this season. As we said, Raúl Fernandez, absolutely incredible so far in 2018. Jack Miller watching on, though. He's looking pretty happy to be out here.
Yeah, definitely. Not a bad weekend for Jack. He's on a pretty good roll at the moment. Solid top 10s in a row. So, yeah, it's nice to see those guys as well take a good interest in this and come out to watch, I think.
Well, it's going to be hugely unpredictable. There's quite a few riders on the grid. We'll run you through the various runners and riders. You can see there a lace view on pole position, Raúl Fernandez alongside him. And, of course, on the outside of the front row is the junior talent team bike of Ayagura. So keep an eye out going down towards that first corner. The riders, of course, getting ready to head out onto their formation lap. They depart from the grid now as the green flag is waved at the back. So the grid is going to be running like this. We've got a lace view on pole position. Raúl Fernandez alongside Ayagura on the front row. Row 2, Somkiat Chantra, Manuel Pagliani and Riccardo Rossi. The third row of the grid, Vicente Perez, Yuki Kuni, Davide Pizzoli on board the Max Racing KTM. Row 4, Marc Garcia, his teammate, Maximilian Koffler on board the KRP KTM. Best performance of the season by far for the Austrian rider, Gerard Riou on the other 8 JHK Leglise Husqvarna on the outside of row 4. Row 5, an unfamiliar name if you've been watching the Moto3 Junior World Championship so far this season. It's Barry Bouters, the Belgian rider. He starts in 13th position on the grid. He turned 14 years old just a couple of weeks ago. So this is the grid view. Fernandez, Agura on the front row. Chantra, Pagliani, Rossi on row 2. Perez, Cooney, Davide Pizzoli on row 3. Garcia, Koffler, Riou on row 4. Barry Bouters on row 5 with Ramos, Canon Chu alongside him. Jacito Garcia on row 6. Jeremy Alcoba alongside him. And Bruno Iadachi on the outside of that row.
We've got Angel Lorente, Lauren Faber, Denis Onchu, Andreas Perez, Kevin Zanoni, Jerry Salim, Apiwat Wongtananon, Philip Salak and Stefano Nepper. And then we're going on to Alex Toledo, Yari Montello, who had a big crash yesterday, Kevin Orgies, Maikon Kawakami, Charlie Andrew Nesbitt, Aaron Polanco, Ryan van der Laagmark, Izam Iqmal and Andrea Cavalieri.
Yeah, row 13, Tom Booth Amos, difficult qualifying for him with Jespersen and Davids alongside, in Idil Fitri bin Mahadi alongside on row 14. As we move further down the order of the grid, you can see that alongside him was Alex Ruiz, Anthony Groppi, Leon Orgis and Tim Georgi completing that row. Quite a few penalties just to note as the riders come round. Anthony Groppi, Alex Ruiz, Apiwat Wongtananon, Jeremy Alcoba, Tim Georgi and Charlie Nesbitt all penalised in qualifying due to not adhering to the rules and regulations here this weekend. So they dropped quite a few grid positions. Jeremy Alcoba being the notable one here, Fran. His teammate Sergio Garcia out with injury after the crash we saw in race 2. He's going to have a bit of a struggle from 17th position on the grid.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only thing he knows is that he was on the podium here last year. Obviously, he's the only one of the guys who were on the podium last year that's still in this class. The other two were Lopez, the winner, and Foggia, who are now in the Moto3 World Championship. So he knows he's got podium form here, so he'll just want to make a really clean start, stay out of trouble, and then see if he's got the pace to try and get back up where he'll feel he belongs.
Well, let's wait and see what will happen. All of the riders making their way to the grid, 44 of them on this, absolutely jam-packed out there at the Moto3 Junior World Championship here at the Bugatti circuit. Just waiting for the rider at the head of the second row to make their way through. That's Somkiat Chantra on board the Junior Talent Team bike. We'll wait for him to make his way through, and hopefully he'll be heading the second row. There he is, the number 35. You can just see him to the middle of the shot. So LHVU on pole position, Raul Fernandez and Ayagura alongside. Wait for the red lights to come on at the top left corner of your screen, and then 17 laps for the Moto3 Junior World Championship is underway, and it's a very good start from Raul Fernandez out of the middle of the front row as LHVU falters and Ayagura also getting away well. Look at Ricardo Rossi on the JHK Leglise Husqvarna going down towards turn 1, but it is going to be Fernandez who gets the advantage heading in towards that first corner into the Dunlop chicane. 44 riders going into one corner. Are they all going to make it through? This is going to be absolutely crucial. Well, a few take it to the escape road, but amazingly, all of them managing to stay on board. Oh, and out of the corner, though, there's drama. Celestino Vietti ram us down, and a couple of other riders involved in an incident. That'll certainly be a yellow flag out there, Fran, but otherwise, Raul Fernandez, a really good start. And Jacinto Garcia just going down as well at La Chapelle. So drama for the Spaniard. The AGR rider goes down the road. He is absolutely incandescent with rage, as you can see. But a really good start, though, for Fernandez.
Yeah, Fernandez has really got the pedal to the metal here, hasn't he? Already trying to make a break for it at the front. Obviously, good to see, a lot cleaner than we had last year with a big crash there last year, but this time the majority of the field got through there. A couple of little incidents. Hope everyone's okay and can either get that cleared quickly or get back in the race. But Fernandez really made the most of that front row start now. Yeah,
somebody did make a good start was LHVU, the pole sitter. You can see him there in 4th place on board that Marinelli Rivacold Snipers machine. He is just behind Somkiat Chantra. Chantra with a very good getaway, and running wide is Raul Fernandez, the race leader. A bit of a look over the shoulder there for the number 73. Keep an eye out for that man. That was Maximilian Koffler, so perhaps a bit of a problem with the KRP rider in these early stages. We'll keep a sneaky eye on that one, but they're already coming to complete their first lap out of 17 here, and it is Raul Fernandez who's quite firmly in charge at the moment. So this is going to be very, very exciting indeed to see how it all plays out. So out of that final corner and over the timing line the riders come. But we saw that incident at the first corner, or the first chicane there, Fran, and you can see Somkiat Chantra trying to challenge for the lead now as well. This is really good for Chantra.
Yeah, definitely. Chantra had really, really good pace here last year as well and was challenging at the front throughout most of the race. And there he goes up into second. See if we can hold on to it. Yep, job well done. So these guys want to be careful, though. Fernandez already had a bit of a gap by the end of the first lap, so they'll want to make sure they definitely don't start fighting each other too early. And Chantra hopefully will be the guy who can tag them back onto the rear of Fernandez.
Well, down through La Chapelle, it's a very exciting part of the lap. One of the favourite corners of a lot of riders because it's fast and flowing and not necessarily a passing place, as there are quite few here. You can see Manuel Pagliani trying to invent something into turn 7, just trying to get the better of Ayagura, who slipped a little bit further back, down into 5th position off the opener. So his front row start not going his way so far, but he's going to have a bit of work to do because he's got his teammate Yuki Cooney close in front as well.
Yeah, definitely Fernandez got the best of those front row starts there, didn't he? Just shot off the line. And Agura is not too bad at the moment. I think, you know, they just need to keep their head a little bit after they have had that front row and it's not quite gone their way. Just make sure that doesn't get to them too much. And then again, you can see...
Pagliani was trying to find a way through, wasn't he, on the Asia Talent Team rider?
Definitely no waiting around for the Italian at all, and you can understand why. That gap is a little bit kind of getting a little bit bigger between those two groups. I want to make sure they don't lose track of the leaders. But Chantra seems to have really closed in on Fernandez now, so it looks like we've got a good race on our hands at the moment.
Yeah, it's been a really good lap last time around for Chantra on the opener. It'll be interesting to see how much faster he is going to be than the race leader, Raul Fernandez. There is Manuel Pagliani, one of course in Estoril for the first time out in the season. He knows that he's got form, he knows that he can have pace on board that Leopard Junior team, as we see Nico Terol watching on in anxious form with 3 riders trying to challenge for this race lead. It's going to be very exciting heading down towards that first corner with Somkiat Chantra trying to challenge, and likewise Aleix Vieux having a sneaky look in 4th position there as well. But this is going to be absolutely brilliant. So over we go. The riders, though, lining astern at the moment. They're going to have to know, Fran, to not go too hard too soon. Yeah,
definitely. I think it's a pretty long race, 17 laps, you know. It's important to not just, kind of throw that all away straight away and push too hard, or indeed push too far and over the limit, not just thinking about tyre life and stuff like that. And we've got to move here, maybe. Bit ambitious trying that there, I think. Not enough space. But Chantra's really managed to tag onto the back of Fernandez. This is really, really impressive for him. Obviously, last year was his rookie season, and he did have a few injury issues as well. But he was the 2016 Asian Talent Cup champion. It's really good now. He's really kicking on in this series and showing what he can do. Yeah, La Musée was where he was trying to think about making a move. Was Aleix Vieux into there? Didn't quite manage to make it stick. Now behind Riccardo Rossi. Is he going to find a way through up into turn 7? The Shimano Boeuf S's. It's not an opportune passing place, but we have seen it get pretty hairy through there over the course of the last couple of years here in the FIM CEV Repsol. And here comes Rossi. He's challenging a move up the inside into the right-hander against Chantra. He gets the move done and dusted, so the Husqvarna rider now up into 2nd position. He'll have his sights quite firmly on the race leader, Raul Fernandez. Yeah, definitely. I just had word through that the 3 riders crashing at the start. That's Baltas, Vietti, Ramos and Josito Garcia are all riders okay, confirmed. So that's good news. That's really good to hear. Well, big shame for Barry Baltas. His Moto3 Junior World Championship debut lasting no more than 3 corners, unfortunately, here at Le Mans. So disappointment for him, but he's only 14 years old. It's his first weekend in the Moto3 Junior World Championship with the Realia Vinter Academy team, so plenty of time to regroup and get his head back in the game. This is getting pretty tasty, though, meanwhile. 4th position, Vicente Perez sets the fastest lap. You can see there the Realia Vinter Academy rider just behind Manuel Pagliani as we come cascading down through turn 4 of La Chapelle. It's very close quarters between these guys, and you can see Pagliani finding his way up the inside of Riccardo Rossi. Yeah. So Rossi, who was challenging for 2nd place, now down into the 5th position. Yeah, you can see a bit of a wobble going in there, and Pagliani took advantage straight through there. It's good to see this group has closed up again. We've got a real fight at the front. It was starting to look a little bit like those guys were going to drop off, but it's really closed up again, and Fernandez really hasn't been able to get away. They're definitely keeping him honest out there. So we've got a good, how many, 8-9 riders at the front there? Should be a good race. Should be a good race. Yeah, it certainly should be. Well, out of the right-hander we go through. That was through Garage Ver. The slipstream is going to come into effect quite significantly here. You can see the 2 Asian Talent Team riders, and you can see Josito Garcia heading back through pit lane. He looks pretty disconsolate with himself. Didn't manage to remount after that crash. Here comes Pagliani trying to find a way through against Aleix Vieux. Vieux runs wide. Is Pagliani going to find his way back through? Yes, he is. So the number 96 is up a position, and also Riccardo Rossi fancying a move as Vicente Perez tries to go the long way round around the outside, but did he manage to make it stick? Not quite through there. So through the left-hander we go in towards the final part of the lap. Rossi's getting really duffed up here, isn't he, Fran? Yeah, definitely. That was a pretty costly few corners there for Riccardo Rossi. He'll want to just regroup as soon as possible, take a deep breath, and at least stem the flow, and then start moving forward again, because he's had some really good pace and been challenging right up there so far. Well, here we can see a replay of the race start. You can just see how well Fernandez managed to get away, and the other 2 competitors on the front row of the grid really not managing to get a good start. Let's see if we can keep an eye on what happened in towards that first corner as well. This is turn 1, and going into that first chicane is where it all kicked off. You can see there, that's the incident. Looks like Ramos lost it, and also Baltas getting involved there as well. That was very, very nasty. Fortunately, both riders up and okay after that. It looked very frightening for a big period of time. You can see Josito Garcia losing the rear end through La Chapelle. Not the first time we've seen that today on track. The Moto3 riders having had a few incidents in the qualifying session.
sessions earlier on today as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's always good to see those guys get up, especially at the start. And with a grid this big, it can get pretty close out there. So really, really good news that all those guys are okay. And yeah, they'll be back out next time out. Ooh, Pagliani again thinking about it. He's been very ambitious so far. Not really elbows too far out yet, but certainly looking for some space there, wasn't he?
The Italian rider, of course, competing here last year in the World Championship with the CIP Mahindra team, now taking a step back to the Junior World Championship and fighting at the front end with the Leopard Junior team. He finds his way through ahead of Chantra up into second position, and it's going to be a very interesting scrap, though. Bit of daylight being put between 4th and 5th position at the moment there, Fran. You can see a bit of a gap back.
Yeah, definitely. I think I definitely commentator cursed that a little bit, because I was just saying, oh, we've got such a close group for the lead. Oh, that was a little bit cheeky there, forced Chantra to sit up. But, you know, a lot can change very quickly with these guys, especially Moto3 machinery, and depending on whether the guys ahead have decided to fight each other for a lap or whether they've all stayed in line and really put in a time, it can change so quickly. So, and again, I think on the straight here with the slipstream, you should see that gap come down again. And it's Agura that's chasing them down, who's obviously technically shown the better pace so far than some of the guys ahead of him with that front row start. So he'll be pretty hopeful.
He goes Pagliani for the race lead.
And there we go. There's the attack. So he knows obviously that him and Fernandez are at the top of the table in the championship. And at the moment, Cooney's not really in this group or showing much at the front. So it's important for him. He knows he has to really pay attention to what Fernandez is doing in terms of the championship.
Well, a fantastic super slow-mo as we can see the riders battling their way through that final corner. The gap going all the way back to Yuki Cooney and indeed Riccardo Rossi in there as well. So it's first down to 8th position that they're battling. The next best is Bruno Iarachi. Apiwat Wongtananon in 10th place as well. Jeremy Alcoba not having made too much progress. He's only in 16th position after starting in 17th. Here comes Chantra down the inside of Raul Fernandez. So now it's Fernandez getting duffed up. He's down off the podium for the first time in this race, and he's going to have a bit of work to do here to try and overhaul these riders. No one having a clear pace advantage, though, crucially, in these early stages.
Yeah, definitely. I was a little bit worried at some point, so we may see Fernandez start to make that gap at the start, because the start was so strong and he already had such a clear bit of daylight between him and the chasing pack. But obviously they've caught him, and now he's back in this battle as well. But like you say, Alcoba, a little bit surprising, I think. I think we expected him to make a bit more of a lightning getaway and work his way through, but obviously as the race goes on, the gap to those ahead gets bigger and the task gets bigger, so we'll have to see what he can do during the remaining 12 laps.
Well, speaking of lightning getaways, Charlie Nesbitt started 32nd on the grid. The British rider from Swindon already up into 18th place. That is very, very good. Keep an eye out for him over the course of this one. He could end up getting himself into the points-paying positions before the end of this one. He's just currently stuck behind Kevin Zanoni and Jeremy Alcoba. So not too much in the way of changing positions. Meanwhile, we look back. This is Apiwat Wongtananon. Wongtananon just inside the top 10. 9th position for him. Closely following him is Bruno Iarachi on board that 658 bike. Then you can see a couple of the Max Racing Team machines in and amongst the mix. Davide Pizzoli in there as well as Kevin Zanoni also at the back end of this group. So quite a big group fighting for position. Back at the front, though, meanwhile, it is still Manuel Pagliani who leads the way. This is going to get pretty interesting over the course of this one. As you can see, Aleix Vieux fancies his fighting at the front. He gets himself back into the lead of the race, and he's trying to get Pagliani to follow him there, Fran, as we go in towards Garage Burst. So trying to get some tactics to make a bit of ground and just have a bit of breathing space.
Yeah, definitely. I think you see a few of these guys sometimes do that. It's a little bit optimistic, to be honest, sometimes. But yeah, obviously he'll think he's got the pace and they can try and pull away. And I mean, obviously initially the goal is to make the fight between a smaller group of riders, so you've got more chance mathematically of coming out on top of it. But we'll have to see. Quite often the rivals don't really play ball with that idea.
No, they certainly don't. It can often go a bit pear-shaped, and let's remember what happened here, of course, with the last lap of the race here in 2017. Jaume Masia fighting for the race lead. He was in 3rd position going towards the Shimano Burf S's of turn 7 and turn 8. Lost the front going through there and threw away a chance of his first victory of the season. Did manage to get it, but he had to wait right until the end of the season in Valencia. So it could prove to be a bit crucial this round in terms of the championship. As we said, just 10 points going into it. Raul Fernandez leading Manuel Pagliani. If it stays as it is, there won't be a change for position, but the points deficit will certainly be closing.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of little groups in the championship pretty close together. But like you say, it's 10 points at the top, and we've only had this the 3rd round round for these guys. So there's a good amount of points left on the board for the season. Obviously, quite a lot of rounds have 2 Moto3 races as well, so it's an entire 50 points on the table for those weekends. But yeah, it's pretty competitive so far between Fernandez and Pagliani, obviously both with wins as well. And then Cooney just up there from sheer consistency. So today he'll want to really make the most of, again, being in this front group from the off. Pretty good pace, up from where he qualified and staying with these guys. But it's important for him as well to not simply have consistency. Consistency is very important, but it's not the only thing you need. At some point as well, you need to be able to really get the job done and take a win as well as podiums, as, you know, when you're fighting against the guys who can do that week in, week out.
Well, we've seen with Yuki Cooney that he does come strong at the end of a race, so let's keep an eye on the Japanese rider. As we said, currently involved in this group, in 7th position currently. Just actually behind him is Riccardo Rossi on board that JH Clay-Lees Husqvarna, and that's a mouthful, I'll tell you, going in towards the Shimano Bofesses. At the moment, it is still the number 81 of Aleix Vieux who leads the way. A torrid season for him last year on board the Rins 42 Pro Sakasa KCM machine, but seems to have regrouped, seems to have found his mojo and his drive on board that Honda, really doing a very good performance, and likewise Raul Fernandez as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think for Vieux, it's been a complete turnaround, hasn't it? Obviously this last year was a very difficult one for him, but so far, yeah, good pace, and he's looking pretty good this weekend, and already with a podium, so, you know, it's definitely a big change, and he'll, I think, be pretty happy with that, and like you say, with pole as well.
Certainly so. Well, Aleix Vieux, you can see the pit board hanging out for him then with Pollo written on it, which means chicken, and that, I'm afraid to say, is the number 78 that's gone down the road. That's Idil Fitri bin Mahadi, the Malaysian rider for the SICK 58, the SICK Racing team, the Petronas Sprinter Junior team. A very difficult start to the weekend for those guys, but they have found a good amount of time so far this season. Of course, we were talking about this last time out in Valencia, Fran. It's really their first time on these sorts of tracks. They had so much to learn this year.
Yeah, completely. Those guys are definitely an investment for the future. They've been brought over, and they're really getting taught everything they need to know about riding, racing professionally. So for them, you know, obviously a crash, not ideal, because they're mainly here this year for experience and to learn how to be a rider and everything it takes, not just on the track but also off it. So that's some bad luck. But, you know, half race distance and some improved pace definitely this weekend. The team were saying to us in Valencia, weren't they, how it's the first time they'd really shown the riders what a difference changing setups can make. Because obviously in Malaysia they don't come from that kind of environment, and they were amazed at quite how much they could change on the bike and the effect that they felt. So for those guys, it's just experience, and sadly not quite so much of it today.
No, well, every day's a learning day, as they say. Unfortunately, he's learned how to push a bit further than the limits would have wanted him to, but a big shame for Fitri bin Mahadi. Let's see if he can regroup and get some stronger results towards the next round in Barcelona. So this will be interesting. Speaking of interesting as well, this group, 9 seconds they've got over the nearest competitor of Jari Montella, or 8 seconds rather, I should say. Actually, the gap's just come down a little bit as they keep fighting in and amongst one another. You can just see them there in the background of your shot, but that is quite an advantage.
It really is. These guys have scarpered completely, haven't they? And it's a bit of a shame for those guys in the second group, because it's absolutely spectacular. There's so many of them all in a train fighting it out, but these guys at the front equally. I think this is going to be a good race now. No one's obviously got the pace advantage to be able to pull away, so we're going to be in a fight to the end, and hopefully we won't have as many broken hearts as we did last year on the last lap.
We can just see Riccardo Rossi going through La Chapelle there. Big movement under his bike, so perhaps some indication that he's not quite feeling as comfortable as he would like. You can see him there on board the number 71 at the back of this group at the moment, so let's see what he's able to do. I have to say, Aleix Vieux takes a very wide line through turn number 5 of La Musée. Interesting way of getting it through, but it seems to be working for him. He doesn't seem to be being challenged too much. Speaking of being challenged, Manuel Pagliani gets duffed over by the number 35 of Somkiat Chantra through Garage Vert.
Yeah, nicely done that, nicely done. I thought he might have been able to just sneak his way back through, but no, Chantra shut the door perfectly there. It was really, really impressive, Chantra, I think, with his racecraft as well as his pace now really coming on. And Pagliani, though, doesn't want to agree with me. Straight back through, fighting for that second. But they're going to have to be careful here. So, you know, those guys are really going to be a bottleneck if Vieux starts to put his foot down and you know, they're fighting it over second, it's not gonna be very good for the guys behind either, and then the battle will just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
You see Chantra giving it as good as he gets. He's trying to find his way back through and does manage to get ahead of Manuel Pagliani. So into the penultimate couple of corners. This is, of course, where we saw the race being decided on the last lap, with Dennis Foggia, who was leading the way as the Leopard Junior team watch on in eager anticipation. But it was Foggia who led the way last year, and Alonso Lopez found his way up the inside after Foggia ran wide through the first of the right-handers in Recordamon. And Lopez took his first win in only his third race of the 2017 season. He, of course, is competing in the Junior World Championship. You can see there Ayagura and Yuki Kuni going hammer and tong, the two junior team talent riders. No love lost between them.
Yeah, definitely. These guys have raced pretty close and had a few incidents to forget, especially between teammates. But yeah, now you can see there's a good bit of daylight there that View's got. These guys are going to have to kick on. I think Pagliani will know that. I always think it must be quite frustrating when you're in this front group. Here you can see the super slow-mo of the last corner there. But I think it must be very frustrating when you're sure you have the pace.
Look at that, Sophia Chantra.
Wow. Impressive to hold on to that. A little bit of Marquez style there. Or maybe that's more a Polispargo Indianapolis style, I think, that one. But
either way, he's managing to regroup pretty quickly.
Definitely. Straight back on it there. Straight back on it. But yeah, obviously all these guys believe they're the one with the pace. So they always keep fighting back. You know, they're not going to believe the other guy that they should sit behind them and just let them, you know, tag along and get back in the train. But I don't know, Aleix View now looks like he might have made a break for it.
About ready to check out his Aleix View at the moment. Let's see what advantage he'll have. It's currently a second going through the third sector of this lap. So over the timeline, let's see whether that gap increases or decreases. This is, of course, what we were speaking about earlier on in the race with these riders battling. You can see there the gap, 9/10 of a second between View and Pagliani. As they come over the timeline, that gap will be reassessed and we'll get an idea as to how far away it's going to be. But, as we said, fighting in and amongst this group, this is not going to help them. So Pagliani just needs to sort of ride his own race. Likewise, Vicente Perez, who's now up into third place, and Ralph Fernandez, not too squabbly amongst each other.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like Pagliani now has got a little bit of space from the guys attacking behind, and especially there, even with the slipstream, he wasn't really under attack by turn one. So he'll want to now use that clear air to try and close in on View. But I say that, you see, Fernandez has proven me wrong. Really tagged onto the back of Pagliani now. I think these guys as well, they've got a bit more experience. They'll know that they're really in danger of getting dropped here and want to really crack on. And I think they as well know that both of them are fast and they've just got to get their heads down. So we'll see. But yeah, a bit of a shuffle around with the junior talent team guys there. Chantra now back in front of Agura and Cooney. So nice little battle there. Keep it clean, lads. Keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, let's see what will happen between these guys, because as you said, Fran, sort of a few groups coming in and amongst one another now as Pagliani runs it way too hot into Garage Ver, and Ralph Fernandez is going to be all over his rear fairing like an unwanted rash going down this straight. So heading in towards the Shimano Buff S's. Let's see whether Ralph Fernandez is able to do anything, but the legs on that Honda not looking too bad actually at all, despite the poor run. Yeah,
he gathered that up really well and really kept it together there, but I think that might be the signal Fernandez wants to maybe think, okay, I need to get past now and I need to be the guy chasing down View for the win. But we'll see. Pagliani obviously had good pace as well, and
Jeremy Alcoba's managed to make some good ground as well, just to cut in front of you there, sorry Fran, but he's managed to make his way up into the top 10 after starting down in 17th position. We were commenting on him not making so much good ground, but you can see also there the two Max Racing bikes in and amongst the mix. Charlie Nesbitt just going through your shot behind Davide Pizzoli at the moment, and Mark Garcia as well, Apiwatwong Tananon, Dennis Onchu in there, Maikon Kawakami, Maximilian Koffler. This is getting pretty hairy as Angel Lorente finds his way through against Bruno Iarachi.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see, obviously, Alcoba's managed to make his way to the front of this group now. The problem is now that he's at the head of a slipstream of almost most of the field behind him. So that won't be the greatest feeling. But there's some real quality riders in this field as well who are just like starting their careers, don't have quite as much experience, you know, like the Onchu twins and those guys. So, you know, Alcoba, it's not as easy as just saying, well, I was on the podium last year, of course I'll make it through. It's going to be a big battle for him, but so far, yes, managing to just stay ahead of this pack.
Well, the two 658 Squadra Corsa bikes are going to be working hand in hand with this one, I'm sure. You can see Jeremy Alcoba in and amongst the mix. You can see Davide Pizzoli just behind his teammate Mark Garcia on board the black and orange machines. Back to the race, out in the front, though. Still the advantage for Aleix View. 1.1 seconds it was last time over the line, and View looks like he's got this one pretty much under control with about 4.5 laps remaining. The battle for second place, I think, is going to be the interesting one here between Manuel Pagliani and Raul Fernandez. And let's not forget, of course, the two Asia Talent Team bikes of Somkiat Chantra and Ayagura. If they're able to close up, that could get pretty entertaining.
Yeah, definitely. I think View now, you know, it's a pretty good gap, pretty comfortable. I'm quite surprised Fernandez hasn't really tried to attack Pagliani yet. We'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, Chantra as well, obviously some internal politics for those guys here. Obviously Chantra gunning for his first visit to the rostrum. Agura, race winner on the podium last time out. So they need to be careful with each other, but it looks like a good fight here. And yeah, they're really straight in that battle for second still. There's almost nothing between them, and it'll just close up again on the straight, obviously with the slipstream effect. By the time they go into the next braking zone, you're right back in the battle for second, and it looks like it may be a battle for second now, because View, yeah, 1.5 ahead, and just growing that gap very steadily, keeping it all nice and calm, and just pulling away from them.
You can see the gaps in the lap times as well. 0.4 of a second. Aleix View managed to pull out on Manuel Pagliani last time around. Pagliani still with Raul Fernandez all over his rear end at the moment. So this is getting pretty exciting with a few laps remaining. Of course, it's all for the battle in the podium. It could end up being crucial at the latter point of the 2018 season for Pagliani and Fernandez in the championship as well. The last thing they'll want to do is run into one another, but whilst they're racing in such close quarters, that is unfortunately what may end up happening. Hopefully it doesn't, but we'll see what goes on between these guys. And as we said, the Asia Talent Team bikes also in and amongst the mix as well. Yeah,
definitely. Agura was the only guy round on that lap who was faster than View. So Agura definitely not giving up on that podium or even that second place. And yeah, really showing some good pace now. It wasn't much. It was just about a tenth. Just under a tenth that he was faster than View, but that's some seriously good pace from Agura, and he's had it all weekend. So let's see what he can do come in the last few laps.
Sorry to say, if you're wondering about Tom Booth Amos's progress, his has been a race to forget, unfortunately down in 40th and currently last position. He's, of course, returning from a broken wrist that he sustained, well, actually at the first round at Estoril, aggravated that with a few more crashes last time out in Valencia, and it's really been a difficult return to the Moto3 Junior World Championship for him here this weekend in Le Mans. Still struggling with injury. He was taking some painkillers, and we caught up with him yesterday in the paddock, and hopefully he's able to find the mojo that we saw with him in Estoril, but things not going his way. That injury looking like it's hampering him a little bit more than perhaps he's letting on.
Yeah, I think it's not quite what he expected from the weekend. I think he was pretty fired up, you know, trying to shrug it off and get back on the bike as soon as he could. But I think it's been a pretty difficult weekend, obviously riding through the pain barrier and so much hard braking here. It's a tough place to try and do it.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, down through La Chapelle we go. Still no positions changing at the front of the field. That battle for 9th position, though, is still looking pretty interesting at the moment. At the moment, it's Angel Lorente on board the number 8, who's leading the charge for that, with Bruno Iarachi and Jari Montella, the two 658 Squadra Corsa bikes, who are quite close behind. That'll be an interesting scrap towards the line, I am sure. But Aleix View, he's managed to bolt. He's managed to keep that gap quite consistent and leading the way very, very comfortably out in front. He has won a few races, not in the Moto3 Junior World Championship, but actually in Red Bull Rookies in 2017. 2 wins, 7 podiums on his way to 2nd overall in the championship. So he's not too unfamiliar with standing on the top step of the podium, just not in the Moto3 Junior World Championship.
Yeah, definitely. His year was one of 2 halves, wasn't it, in 2017? Obviously, Red Bull Rookies, pretty good job, a really great season, and then just pretty much, you know, just constant difficulties in the CEV, you know. So it's great to see him having bounced back from that, and obviously he had those other performances to say to himself, you know, no, it's not always me. I'm fast. I know what I'm doing. I can do this, and keep that confidence up, because confidence is so important. And we're going to get a replay here as a moment.
Well, this is just going in towards Garage Ver. We've seen a few moments. This is a great super slow-mo with Aleix View hard on the race. You can really see the compression of the front suspension and the bike looking pretty stable underneath him as he goes through there. Of course, toes or the ball of the foot on the peg as he leans it through that corner. And Aleix View looking calm, looking confident, looking in control with a couple of laps remaining.
Yeah, definitely. He looks like he's got this one in the bag, doesn't he? Looks pretty solid out there. And obviously, like you say, the gap staying pretty consistent. He's pulled out another 10th, but, you know, obviously the gap can concertina a little bit depending on where you are in the track. So I think he's should be feeling pretty relaxed now, other than just keeping it all together. Now all those little noises on the bike will be panicking him a little bit. Just got to keep it calm and focus on what he's doing. And then this battle for second now is really heating up. The the junior talent team guys of Chantra and Agura have really tagged on the back of the two guys at the top of the championship. So this could get pretty interesting, I think.
Certainly could do. Well, we just saw Manuel Pagliani coming out of the Dunlop chicane, exploring track limits and exceeding them quite significantly. So a couple of little mistakes in the latter parts of this race for Pagliani. Is he just feeling the pressure of the group behind him? We know how much the slipstream down this straight will affect the riders. The longest straight on this circuit, just 674 metres, so not quite the kilometre-long one that we saw in Estoril for the first round of the championship, but still enough to make a move in towards the Shimano Burfesses. The next time around is going to be pretty telling to see what happens between these riders. Meanwhile, Ayagura tries a move, fancies his way up the inside of Raul Fernandez, and again, just in the foreground of your shot there, Fran, Pagliani just taking a little bit of a wider line as well.
Yeah, I think Pagliani's a little bit scrappy here and there now. It'll be interesting what happens on the final lap, and also whether he wants to, again, almost a little bit wider there. But it'll be interesting to see whether he almost wants to be at the lead of this group throughout most of that final lap. Because obviously when you're the guy in the front of the group, you're the guy who's going to get attacked first, pretty much. So yeah, now you can see that gap's gone out for View to 1.9 seconds as we go into the final lap. So he's pretty safe on that, and now these guys are going to have an absolute battle for second.
Fernandez, sorry to cut in front of you there, Fran. He's trying to find his way through and does so on board that Angel Nieto KTM. Is he going to run it wide? Is he going to allow Ayagura and Somkiat Chantra to come into the foray as we go in towards La Chapelle? At the moment, it's Fernandez's position to lose, but you can see there Agura fancying a bit of a sneaky way up the inside through that corner, but it is very much one at a time through there.
Yeah, definitely, and Pagliani's going to fight back already, or not quite. He was giving that a look a few times earlier, and he's not actually attempted that move yet, so we won't be doing it this year. But Fernandez manages to hold him off, and now you can see the gap a little bit bigger now back to Agura, who had just lost out on the exit. Oh, Pagliani there.
Again wide, isn't he? He's really, really trying to push his luck on board that Leopard Junior Team Honda and exceeding track limits. I've just had a notice, actually, from Race Direction that Rider 88, that's Bruno Irachi, will be penalised 3 seconds for exceeding track limits. So Race Direction really are coming down on that one quite heavily through the Shimano Burfesses. At the moment, it's this battle for 4th position that we're keeping quite a sneaky eye on. You can see at the moment it's a battle that Somkiat Chantra is winning, but Ayagura fancies his way up the inside of his teammate and manages to get the move done and dusted.
Yeah, this is going to get pretty close, I think, between these guys. They need to be careful, like we said, but at the moment, Fernandez managing to hold off Pagliani, and then Chantra again.
Oh, but Fernandez runs wide. Is Pagliani going to find a way through? Not quite at the final corner. Aleix View, though, comes over the line and takes his first victory in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. Raul Fernandez gets second place. Pagliani up into third. Ayagura did get the better of his teammate into 4th position ahead of Somkiat Chantra. 5th, Yuki Kuni. 6th, Vicente Perez. And look at this battle further down the order as well. Out of the final corner we go. Over the timing line, Jeremy Alcoba. What a ride from the Australia Galicia rider. He finishes in 9th position ahead of Yari Montella. Bruno Irachi finished in 11th, but will drop down 3 seconds, as we said, due to exceeding track limits. Then it's Wong Tananon. Charlie Nesbitt, 2 points on the board for the Briton. Then Dennis Onchu, the final point scorer in the race. But what a fantastic one that was. What a great scrap for 9th position at the end there as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's a bit of a shame we didn't see more of that there. Huge train of riders fighting it out for just that back end of the top 10. And Alcoba, pretty much what he must have, that's what he needed to do, pretty much. After the start, didn't go quite to plan, didn't quite gain as much as he would have wanted. He really had to come out kind of best of the rest and had that second group, and that's exactly what he did. So that's a job well done. And out of the final corner as well, we saw Fernandez actually a little bit wide on that final lap. But, it always depends. I think what they penalise riders for is when they've repeatedly done that and obviously gained an advantage, so it shouldn't probably be a problem. But at the end there, Aleix View 1.6 ahead. That's pretty impressive performance, and it'll feel pretty good after the difficult season last year.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. Raul Fernandez taking the second position in that race on board that Angel Nieto KTM. Good stuff for the number 23, continuing his impressive run of form in the 2018 Moto3 Junior World Championship. He's really like a rider that's been reborn. Of course, we saw him in the JHK Leglise team at the back end of 2016. Took his first win in Valencia for the final race of the season. However, didn't go his way last year on board the Mahindra bike. On board that KTM, though, that he switched to for this year, and the team have switched to as well. Seems to be working a lot better for the Spaniard, and he looks pretty happy out there. Manuel Pagliani, of course, Third position for the Italian rider, another podium, crucial for his championship, as we said in the early stages of the 2018 season. This is going to be good for Pagliani, going to be good for the Leopard Junior team as well, because of course not too far away, and the riders market will be getting a bit interesting for what will happen in the World Championship.
Yeah, definitely. I think a few of these guys, especially Pagliani with the experience he already has at, Moto3 World Championship level, it's important for him to have a good season this year. So here we can see...
This is the race-winning overtake. This was the number 81 of Aleix View up the inside of Pagliani into the Dunlop chicane, and that was the move that got him the race victory. As soon as he was out in front, he managed to get himself quite an advantage over Pagliani. You can see here Raul Fernandez as well on board that KTM, just tipping it in towards the final corner, leaning his way over. And look at that front end slide as well. Marquez-esque way of saving it. Absolutely brilliant.
Definitely, yeah. Went a bit wide there. It's an amazing super slow-mo camera there. It's great to be able to see this and see so much more detail of exactly what's happening on the bike in these moments. There, if you looking back, yep, they're quite a way behind you. Don't worry about it. Yeah, that's really good for the championship as well. Obviously, it does extend the gap slightly, but not too much. And yeah, like we were saying, Pagliani will be pretty happy. I think he has to be a front runner really this year in the series. So he's job well done.
Certainly does. Well, Aleix View on board the number 81, as we said, finished second in the Red Bull Rookies last year. Not a stranger to winning, but that's his first win, believe it or not, in the Moto3 Junior World Championship, despite having competed in it for a couple of years. 18 years old he is, and that is a very good performance from him, of course, in front of the Moto3 and indeed the MotoGP field here this weekend as well.
Hola, França, Alemans. Hola, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. So you can see Raul Fernandez there in Parc Ferme, just celebrating with the Angel Nieto team, of course. There is Nico Tirol. We spoke to him. Tom was down in pit lane speaking to him before the start of the race, saying that he knew Fernandez was going to have a bit of a tricky time making a break out in front if indeed he got into the lead of the race. Well, he led part of it, but wasn't to be for too long, because once View managed to get himself out in front in the latter half, he was pretty much untouchable. Very, very good stuff. You can see there Idil Fitri Bin Mahadi's Petronas Sprinter Junior team bike being pushed back to pit lane. And, of course, damaged bike for him, but nonetheless, a very, very good performance. A solid race there as well, and very, very good to see the title contenders in the Parc Ferme all together.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always good when you get a race where, those guys who are racing each other for the championship also race for the...
Well, I've just had some news come through from Race Direction, Fran. Number 96, Manuel Pagliani. We mentioned to him about exceeding track limits, and he is going to be penalised 3 seconds following that race. So it means that Ayagura will get onto the podium. Well, this is absolutely dramatic. That means Manuel Pagliani will finish in 6th position at the end of this one. So we talked about him exceeding track limits. We talked about him going wide. Race Direction coming down on him like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, we were just saying how great it was to roll in Parc Ferme. That is an expensive penalty for Pagliani in terms of the points. Obviously, great for Agura. Like I was saying at the start of the race, he's one who really needs to get that consistency up, and 2 podiums in a row is about as consistent as you can get if you really want to be challenging at the front. So good for him. Pagliani, that's going to be difficult to take that after that race, I think. But, the rules are the rules. You're racing on the track, not wherever you want.
Confirmation from Race Direction at the bottom of your screen then. So Manuel Pagliani, a 3-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. The Italian rider now off the podium, down into 6th position. That's going to be a very bitter pill to swallow. We saw him going wide quite significantly on the camera. We saw him getting an advantage from it a couple of times as well. Race Direction deeming that that was exceeding track limits too much, gaining too much of an advantage, crucially being the point there. He ends up off of the podium. So Ayagura, then the junior talent team, will be absolutely thrilled with that. The problem here is we don't know whether Ayagura has already gone back into Parc Ferme. The Parc Ferme and the paddock here, especially, are quite distances apart.
Indeed, we walked the scenic route down to the CEV paddock this morning.
It was definitely the scenic route, I tell you what. It wasn't the expressway.
It is lovely, but it is a very long way. So if we do have to get Agura, obviously he may not have quite yet been told, got to get him back up to Parc Ferme and tell him, hey, you're on the podium. So yeah, we'll see. Hopefully he'll turn up pretty soon and drive in. But obviously now Pagliani's got to do the opposite journey, and that's just not going to feel great.
Well, there we go. Let's go down to Parc Ferme. Tom Bouchard is with the race winner, Aleix View.
And today in the race was very hard because at the beginning was a big group, and in the end I try push with my pace, and I can win this race, and I'm very happy for that. I want to dedicate the race to my team because they did a very good job.
Fantastic, fantastic. En español también.
Vale. Estoy muy contento, ha sido una carrera difícil. Hemos hecho un fin de semana muy bueno, hemos trabajado mucho. Y la carrera ha sido bastante dura porque al principio había un grupo grande. Yo sabía que tenía ritmo y podía escaparme, que al final lo he podido hacer. Pero la pista está muy caliente y deslizaba bastante. Y eran unas condiciones bastante difíciles y bueno, al final he podido ganar, y que es lo importante, y agradecer esta victoria al equipo por todo.
Perfecto.
Good to hear from the race winner then, at least for you. Fran, you know a bit more Spanish than I do.
Well, yeah, he did add a few more details in Spanish there, just saying that the track's pretty hot and he knew he had the rhythm and the pace to escape, but at the start it was pretty difficult in a big group, and then eventually he was able to get out in front and push, but he said the conditions were pretty difficult. So yeah, obviously hot afternoon sun. They've only really had one session in anything like similar conditions, so it's pretty challenging for these guys just straight out the box, but good race from view.
Yeah, well, despite it being the latter part of the afternoon, it's still quite warm here at Le Mans as well. About an air temperature of 20 or so degrees here at the Bugatti circuit, so it doesn't make it quite difficult out there on track. 21 degrees. I've just checked the weather app on my mobile telephone just to keep an eye out and see what it's doing, but doesn't affect these guys too much. However, the podium is going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. We should point out that other apps are available.
Certainly are, yes. There are many, of course, that you can find. Well, there is the podium. The historic Le Mans circuit, absolutely full to the rafters with fans it was earlier on today. And, of course, the MotoGP race tomorrow going to be pretty interesting. If you haven't watched qualifying, we won't spoil the result for you there. These are the results, though, of the Moto3 Junior World Championship race. Alace View takes the race victory ahead of Raul Fernandez. Ayagura promoted to third position following Pagliani's penalty. Somkia Chantra, Yuki Kuni inside the top five. Pagliani sixth. Vicente Perez down in seventh place. Ricardo Rossi eighth. Jeremy Alcoba on board the Estrella Galicia Honda in ninth position, but quite a big gap all the way back into that group. You can see Yair Montella completing the top 10. Angel Lorente, Wong Tananon, Nesbitt, Onchu and Kawakami complete the points. Max Koffler in 16th, best result for him of the season. Davide Pezzoli, Philippe Salak, the Czech rider, in 18th position. So good stuff from all involved. Kevin Zanoni, Marc Garcia and Laurent Faber. Bruno Iarachi with that penalty as well, down in 22nd place. Stefano Nepa, Andreas Perez, Jerry Salim, Ryan van der Laagmaert, Alex Toledo in 27th place on board that Mir Racing KTM for the Cunha de Campeones team. Of course, we had a few non-finishes in that race, but these weren't some of them. And there we see Canon Chu, Kevin Orgis, Sasha De Witt, Alex Ruiz, Tim Georgi, Simon Jespersen, Andrea Cavalieri, Gerard Riou and Aaron Palenko, who's returning this weekend after struggling with injury in the first part of the season. And you can see the riders, the last of the classified: Leon Orgis, Izam Iqmal, Anthony Groppi, Tom Booth Amos. Difficult race for him, returning from injury as well. Idil Fitri Bin Mahadi, Barry Bautas, Chasito Garcia, Celestino Vietti Ramos, all failing to finish for various reasons over the course of that race. Not too incident packed, not too many crashes that we saw over the course compared to the last year or so. Let's have a look at the championship standings after this round, though. This is where it gets interesting. Raul Fernandez still on top, but his advantage now is 20 points over Manuel Pagliani. Alace View there in third position, not too far away, just over a race victory. Yuki Kuni, Somkiat Chantra, Vicente Perez, Ayagura, Ricardo Rossi all battling for sixth position. You can see them very close on points. Jeremy Alcoba in ninth position, so doing a good job on board that Honda machine. He'll be pretty pleased with that result, still keeping him not necessarily in touching distance of the championship, but inside the top 10 crucially as well. Sergio Garcia out with injury for the foreseeable future. He sits in 10th place. Yair Montella, Garcia, Philippe Salak, Gerard Riou, Davide Pezzoli, Charlie Nesbitt, Jason De Pasquier, Angel Lorente on the board. Chanon Chu, Chasito Garcia, Apiwat Wong Tananon, Kevin Zanoni 22nd, Dennis Onchu down in 23rd position after his pace at the start of the year. We expected him to be a bit further up. De Witt, Ruiz and Kawakami complete the last of the point scoring finishes.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's getting pretty interesting in the standings now. Obviously, that you can see that penalty for Pagliani really has taken a bit of a toll on his place in the standings, or certainly his points deficit to the top. And I think Agura, again, like we said, with that second podium in a row, he's really moved up there from 10th in the title fight to 7th. So he's really made a good gain there. And if he can keep this pace up, he could really close in on them pretty quick.
Good news is they've managed to get Iagura from the paddock area, so they must have done the express route compared to the scenic way that we got. Here is your podium, Iagura on the right-hand side of your picture, Ralph Fernandez on the left, and then slap bang in the middle, Aleix View, his first win in the Moto3 Junior World Championship. You can see there the team representative for the Marinelli Snipers team, looking like he's just won the World Cup.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a Slovenia.
Oh, and Denis Foggia as well, 2017 Moto3 Junior World Champion on the podium, presenting the trophy to Yuki Kuni. Ralph Fernandez as well, pretty pleased with second place for the Angel Nieto team. And the man who's going to have a grin the size of the circuit here this evening will be this man, Aleix View. Trials and tribulations for him in 2017, but the top step of the podium this time around. Really good stuff. So we wait now for the Spanish national anthem to play out over the Le Mans circuit here in France. But not before this is presented, the petrol check. A bit of free Repsol fuel for him to go home with. That'll help with his next track day, I'm sure.
As I always have to say, obviously he can definitely use that, being his age.
Yeah, definitely can. Aleix View, race winner here in Le Mans, the Spanish national anthem playing out over the podium. What an absolutely brilliant race that was. Dominance from Aleix View once he managed to get himself out in front, and a great podium scrap as well. We're going to be talking to some of these riders later, quite a few of them in fact. It's going to be pretty interesting to see what they've all got to say. Of course, the next time we'll be out will be in around about 3 weeks or so's time in Barcelona at the Catalonia circuit. This was the race though. View was on pole position, but it was Ralph Fernandez who managed to get a very good launch away from the light. Likewise, Riccardo Rossi and Somkiat Chandra also looking pretty menacing for a time there as well. Heading down towards the first corner though, did they all manage to make it through? Well, out of the chicane they didn't, and that is why Jeremy Alcoba actually had some dramas, because he was caught up in the incident between Ramos and Bautas at the first couple of corners. Also, we saw Jacito Garcia losing the rear end through that corner, going down the road on board his AGR Calex rather, and sorry, KTM I should say, and throwing his bike into the gravel track. Disappointment for him. Meanwhile, the battle out in front saw Pagliani taking over for a very brief while as View managed to find his way back through with relative ease. And this was where it got pretty interesting here, Fran, as well, because the riders tried to fight in amongst one another, and View, once he managed to get out in front, just managed to pull away that gap. Yeah, definitely. Like you said in that post-race interview, he knew he had the pace to try and do that and was able to get to the front and then really make that count. So really impressive performance from him. Here we can see as well a bit of an attack from Chandra, who I think will be pretty unhappy to not quite make it onto the podium once again, but a good pace for the sophomore rider, and a big moment there that he managed to stay on the bike after. So, you know, sometimes you've got to count the chickens. Look at that super slow-mo as well. You can see just how well he did to hang on to that Honda going through that final corner. Definitely, and how well they did to avoid him and managed to get past him safely there. Certainly so. Well, Aleix View, as we said, once he got out in front, he completely checked out. 2 seconds was the advantage nearly that he had going over the timing line, but for slowing down over the final corner. This was Ralph Fernandez running wide at Recordamont, just managed to get his way back onto the circuit and managed to come over the timing line to take the race victory. Pagliani came across the line in 3rd position, demoted though by 3 positions 3-second penalty for the Italian rider for exceeding track limits. Iagura eventually taking the spoils on board the podium. But it is Aleix Vieux then who ends the day on top here at the Moto3 Junior World Championship. He'll be very pleased with that. Next time we'll be out is at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya for round 4 of the FIM CEV Repsol.